don't sit on the cheap seats, sit on the main seats. We're going to start this off. If anyone's wondering what this... Is this working? Hello, hello? Yes, it is. What this strange glowing table is, it's Talkaoke pop-up talk show. We're here today at Ortus to get, hopefully, a very productive conversation going. And we're here as part of the mental health and justice project. But the subject of conversation is...
Justice, no peace.
True, no justice, no peace. So justice is very important. But the range of the conversation is up to you. My job in the middle here is simply to encourage and pass the microphone around and try and connect people, make sense of this. Everyone in this building is welcome to come and join in. And especially, I'd like to introduce the man behind the screens, Rick, that is going to attempt to visualize the ideas as they come out. And this is a tough job, but I think it's going to be really interesting. This is an artistic intervention. He's going to attempt to make some very quick illustrations of the conversation as we go along. That's pretty much it. It's pretty simple, just talk into this microphone about really anything you want to talk about. We're going to find out hopefully a little bit about the project and why we've been invited here. And then we're just gonna roll and see where this goes. So I'm going to first of all get some names. My name's Mikey. What's your name?
I'm Robin.
And
Judy.
And
Xavier.
Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier.
And
Margot.
Loretta.
Michaela.
Lucia.
and so does anyone know anything about this project and why we're here? Can anyone say anything?
Michaela should do.
Yeah?
Michaela should do.
Okay, well, Michaela, are you happy to just explain?
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm Steph, that's right. Well, it's a 4-year project. We're in our second year, so we've got three more years to go. We're halfway, well, not quite halfway through. And the Bethlem Gallery, who commissioned People Speak, has been invited to commission artists and kind of creative folk to engage the public around the themes of the research, which is ongoing here at King's, at the IOPPN. And it's the vital topic of mental health and justice. And there are different work streams. There are kind of all kinds of research into things like advanced directives and metacognition. And the project itself, the research project, is incredibly ambitious. It wants to change things at a policy level. And so our job is really to get as many people as involved in the discussion as possible. Because I think very often the whole apparatus of justice can seem quite remote and quite distant. And it feels difficult unless you've got personal experience to be able to kind of make a meaningful contribution to those discussions, which always seem to happen somewhere else, don't they? So that's the gallery's ambition. I'm going to pass back to Mikey now. Is that enough?
Okay. Well, yes, and I mean, we talk about personal experience. Has anyone got any personal experience? Come and have a seat at the table of chat. What's that?
It's not criminal justice, it's justice.
Justice is a big theme, yeah. Justice as a general theme, yes. So it's about legislation around the Mental Health Act specifically is what the researchers here at King's are looking into.
I mean, Xavier over here, you were saying without justice, there's no peace. What did you mean by that?
Oh, that's very deep. Well, it's from the LA riots, wasn't it? Originally, but it can be without justice, there's no peace of mind as well.
Okay, so
that's another reading of it.
Justice is very important.
Well, a balance, definitely. Yeah, you're talking about justice system and justice in your own mind, really.
Okay, so there's a couple of things there.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, no, there's two things. The justice system, justice in your own mind. Let me. We've got a new face to the table, so let me find out what your name is.
My name is Emma. Hi.
Eva. We have got Lucia. We've got Michaela. We've got Loretta, Margot, Xavier, Judy. Was it? And Robin. I think this is going to feel like we're starting to wind this up. We're starting to warm up. What we're talking about, basically, is mental health and justice. Do we mean criminal justice in terms, I guess that mean, or do we mean the justice of the mind?
Well, no, I guess it means how behaviour of the behaviour of people fits into the society and the justice system, how it gets observed. Like mental people, and I can do it, it can be quite scary to the Joe public, and that's where the public will react.
Right.
I've seen people be brought in the front here by police, you know, because they've been off the limits, and it's just about having a uniformity. That's really that's the fear. Uncomfortable.
That's the fear of the.
Change the colour.
Okay, we'll get rid of that. We've got a pink one actually. Have we got any pinks in the thing there, Rick?
Maybe that's why.
Anyway, I will lose that. We've got another new face at the table. What's your name?
Eve.
Eve. We got Xavier. We got Judy. We got Robin. We got Eva. We have got Lucia, Michaela, Loretta, and Margot and Mikey. At the moment, we're just trying to get our heads around this idea of justice. Were you about to say something, Judy?
Yeah, no, you mentioned society, so I'm thinking more social justice.
Yeah.
And it's such a wide
What do you mean
thing.
by social justice?
Well, I think of sexual politics and definitions of mental illness, and that maybe women might be defined differently as crazy in a different way that men might be. So it's sort of sexual politics and race. Different people from different cultural backgrounds will be treated differently, so that's not just.
And also, different cultural backgrounds will have different forms of justice, so their own level, their own standards will come with the culture, sort of thing.
So how do different cultures fit into this? Is this making any sense to you over here? Do you know what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good because you came in a bit late, so. Well, yeah, I'm still picking up the pieces here as well. So, I guess, where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about different cultures? This point from Judy about. I just want to come. Were you going to say something, Robin?
Well, if justice is the issue, and I think it is very much a significant part of mental health kind of problem, then because in different areas, mental health has been essentially criminalised, or people who experience mental health problems are incarcerated, and that's a form of deprivation, and so in different areas, I think it takes different forms. In the current era, we are sort of subdued in a different way.
Are we still criminalising people just because they're
I think as well as criminalising, there's a kind of moral judgment.
Okay, we're judging them as well.
That is related, and that sort of has bearing on something like stigma, which is still very much present in terms of mental health. And if we're going to enter an era where there's more enlightened understanding of what it means to be mentally unwell, we need to remove that stigma.
Okay. How do we get a more enlightened understanding of mental illness?
By being collectively more honest.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about what the lady said here about different, Julie, about what is perceived as mental illness at different times in different groups, and in fact, relating to what was said here, is a very, very subjective nature within society of both criminalising certain kinds of behaviour, or sort of, if you like, trying not to address or regard certain other sorts of behaviour that actually might not be related to mental health, but might be actually very political behaviour of a different sort.
Can you give me an example?
Actually, well, the example that was made by Julie over here was
Judy.
to do...
Was it Judy or Judy?
Judy, sorry. Judith. Okay, Judy. Sorry, Judy. Was to do with women being, classed as having mental health issues if, for example, they're asking for the vote or asking for equal rights. Okay. And so the various ways there's a certain reflection of society's mores, depending on what is, what isn't, justice being seen to be done, who gets punished, who does or doesn't have responsibility. So I think the word responsibility and the way that, if you like, society says who is responsible for what society is responsible, it's all a mess, and it's all very kind of meshed up.
Okay, so back in the day when women were asking for the vote, they were just seen as crazy. Xavier?
Yeah, he made me think of something. Liberty. is the kind of key word.
Yeah.
Whether it be the individual's liberty to be insane,
Yeah.
or the other person's liberty
Right.
to be safe, feel safe when confronted by that sort of behaviour.
Okay, so there's a question of liberty, but also this question of safety as well. Were you going to say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of I've been thinking about it for a little while, but with the relationship of mental health and justice, can you ever get truly creative on there? Just like for the purpose of safety and all sorts of restrictions on a policy level. I mean, can you ever get creative? Can you ever approach mental health in a different way? Because it seems like that's just kind of been decided. Now this is how we treat people with mental health illnesses. This is how how the justice system works. This is.
So you're saying it's not a creative space.
I don't think it's quite been decided. I mean, it's changed a lot over the last 100 years, so it's in flux. It's been discussed, and all the asylums have gone now. So I think it's under discussion rather than been decided.
All right, Xavier, where would you like it to go then? What would you think some of the developments, if it is changing, where would you like it to change to?
I have no idea.
Okay, well maybe we can put that out to the rest of the table. What do you think? I mean, is there a space for creativity? Anything from the sofa over here? Yes.
What do you mean, a space for creativity in the system?
Well, you're talking about liberty. I mean, isn't creativity a kind of expression of liberty in a way?
No, liberty is somebody's right to pursue whatever in their life. I'm not putting a definition on it particularly. I can't remember what you were talking about, but it made me think the word was liberty, really. People being at liberty to be and exist the way they feel happy, whether it be confronted by a distressing, forget it.
I'll come back to you in a sec because we've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
Hello, my name's Penny.
Penny, we've got Xavier, we've got Judy, we've got Robin, we've got Eva, we've got Lucia, and what was your name again?
Eve.
What's it?
Eve.
Eve, Loretta, Margot, and Mikey. At the moment, we're kind of trying to... What we're really talking about is the definition of mental health, and like the idea in different times, different people were seen as crazy. Like back in the day, when women were campaigning for the vote, they were often seen as insane for wanting to vote, according to Eva.
And now, ironically, people aren't voting.
Now people are not voting. So I mean, are they? I don't know. So. This is kind of like our definition of insanity is changing. The way we approach mental illness is changing. There's still a lot of judgment, says Robin. That's what we're talking about at the moment. But what Margot has said is, can we have a more creative response to mental illness? Can we actually have a more liberty for those people that might be in the mental health system? These are some of the questions that we're talking about at the moment. Robin, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about liberty and freedom, and it can take many different forms, and one of those is the freedom of expression. And so we can be sort of incarcerated in different ways, and one of which is kind of interiorizing our own disorder, and so that you can be in captivity, but apparently at large. Yeah.
So the captivity of the mind, in a way, that we actually we appear to be at liberty, but our mind, we're actually trapped within our own mind.
William Blake's kind of the phrase "mind-forged manacles," and so that's a perfect expression of what that means.
Mind-forged manacles. Maybe that's one for Rick to visualise over there.
But yesterday, in terms of freedom and liberty and incarceration, you may well be aware that it was the first day of the hearing for Julian Assange, who they're seeking his extradition, or the Americans are seeking his extradition, and but he has been incarcerated having not actually committed a crime, and so he's being punished because he's actually been exercising his liberty and freedom of expression as a journalist, and that is kind of inconsistent with society as it's organised currently. So.
Okay, so Julian Assange. Everyone know about Julian Assange? What do people think? Is he being punished for exercising his liberty? Incarcerated for 10 years, you said? What do people think? Anyone got any strong opinions on Julian Assange?
Controversial.
Yeah.
Quite controversial, isn't he? I think kind of bit Marmite. But I think kind of the issues around.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
justice are interesting at an international, at a global level. I've always been fascinated by this idea of extradition.
Yeah.
And about kind of those kind of operations of power that seem to be kind of deployed in quite particular ways. So we think kind of justice is universal, but there seems to be kind of different types of justice for different types of people and different types of situations.
Okay,
isn't it?
Different types of justice for different types of people. Grab the mic.
In fact, he's on the run for sexual offences charges from Norway or something, isn't he? After the Weinstein thing as well. So, that the reason he doesn't want to be extradited to Norway is because they'll extradite him to America, isn't it? That's the...
Just to link it up though to questions about information, about mental health, it was all linked up. I mean, my ambivalence about Assange is I don't know what to believe in relation to him because there's so much conflicting information. And I think if we're talking about different ways of controlling people, defining how people self-control, how they define themselves, if people self-see issues, mental health issues or others, it's all about information flow and our place within that. And so I think that's how Assange sort of fits in this difficulty of actually understanding what is real, what is not real, what do we understand, and how that is used by societies, by governments, specifically within legal systems to control the populace.
Okay, how do we have justice when we don't know what to believe? We don't know who to believe, what to believe.
It's a power thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, well, the question of power is very...
Interpretation, power, it's all truth. Like you're saying, it's up to the individuals involved, the individuals in power.
Could we change the power of balance?
And also, do you think that as individuals we don't have any power whatsoever? Because it seems like there's a big machinery, there's somebody controlling or...
Do you feel like you've got power?
God, shout something really loud. Make him jump.
I don't know if that's gonna make the point though. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I do, and sometimes I feel like I don't. It's just like the moment if I go about my daily life in a kind of in my microwave, I feel like I've got a handle on this, and then the minute I start to think about bigger picture. And start asking questions essentially, it's like, well, there's literally nothing I can do. So I just feel like quite hopeless sometimes in that way.
Okay, I'm just going to come to Judy.
Okay, no, it's really, I think with Assange, it's the state's power, isn't it? The state saying we have to, it's your security that we have to maintain this secrecy. And the fact that it was on the internet, whereas before it might have been published, the publishing, the internet's opened it all up, so we're not sure what's true and what's checked out. But it's the state saying because of this terrorism, we have to imprison people in a way, stop, cut your freedom down because we're protecting you, when in reality we're not, which you could say is true of psychiatrists as well.
Are the psychiatrists part of the state's power, and where does the state's power begin and end? Is this about the power of the state, what we're talking about here? Or is it about... What's that, Xavier?
Psychiatrists are part of the educated hierarchy of a sort of power. Knowledge is power.
I mean, do you see them as part of the state's power?
I haven't seen many psychiatrists at all.
So you don't, not sure about that?
Reserved. But I think, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, Michaela?
I think what I'm really interested in thinking about Assange, but also thinking about kind of, things being made public is who has power over the narrative. Because I remember when there was that kind of a leak about kind of Assange's behaviour in the Ecuadorian embassy, wasn't there? And he was kind of, his behaviour was described as erratic and strange. And so it seems to be quite a common tactic to kind of try to describe somebody as kind of unwell, eccentric, and therefore to kind of like challenge whatever truths they might be kind of putting in the public realm. So I'm kind of interested in who controls the narrative, who controls the story. Okay.
Who controls the narrative? That's a big question, and I think it's not just with Julian Assange, but for all of us. Who controls the narrative? Come and get involved in this if you want to. This is Talkaoke. At the moment, we're trying to get our heads around mental health, justice, and power. Who has got the power here? Who's got the power to tell the story? To tell your story? To tell anyone? So, was there a point over here, Robin?
Yeah. The story about Julian Assange's behaviour in the Ecuadorian embassy was an example of the mainstream media actually assassinating somebody's character without any evidence, but it actually highlights an aspect of our society which is to do with the media and who actually controls the media, which is a manifestation of power and especially state power, and who actually controls that narrative. Unfortunately, it's becoming far more centralized, and it's in the hands of, in America, it's 5 different news corporations who control 90-something% of the media, and that means it's any kind of freedom of expression is systematically constrained, and that's why something like WikiLeaks is extremely important, because the reason the Americans want to actually have them in their custody is because he highlighted war crimes by the Americans. And
can we take the power back? Is there any way that we can actually regain that power or claim that power?
We can, by being conscious and aware of precisely what is happening and the nature of our society. And there's another kind of aspect that I think is important that relates the way that mental health is generally represented as if it is a kind of imbalance in somebody's sort of brain chemistry, and the focus is always on the individual who is given treatment, but hardly anybody actually talks about society as being having a mental health, and that's to do with social dynamic.
Yeah. In a way, we started like this because we kind of said different societies have got different definitions.
So in a sense, mental health or mental illness is a response to a psychotic society.
Okay, so is it actually the society? Is it actually the society that kind of defines the insanity, and in that sense, in that sense. In that sense, actually, is the society kind of sick or ill? Was there a point over here, Lucia? No?
It's all a bit sort of big for me, because I actually think that actually there is a problem, but part of it is to do with the fact that the only things that are actually funded properly now are kind of the health service, but not mental health, physical health, and the justice system, in that you can go to prison. Right. I mean, it's about the only place you can go for free is hospital and prison, and so I think that's skewing it, skewing the people in the middle with possibly mental health problems have only got 2 places to go.
If you could write a cheque and fund something else, what would you fund and would you create that wouldn't be either hospital or prison?
Well, I mean, I do like the idea of a bit of creativity around it, because I do think that it is possible to kind of live your life in a different way, and if you find a creative outlet, it could help.
Okay, so creativity could be, a creative space could actually be a third space between the hospital and the prison. That sounds very harsh, but can we actually open up a third space? Is it about also the funding? That's something, the first person to mention, the question of who's going to fund and resource this?
In terms of the creativity and funding, what I think is quite striking, the recent Arts Council report, the 10-year strategy that came out. I mean, for starters, there's been so many cuts made to the arts that it's I just don't know what's going on.
I mean, do you agree with Lucia that the arts are a space maybe to explore this?
It is, but I don't understand why is it not being funded if we all kind of collectively as a society, and so Western society as well, agree that creativity is important. It's not until, you know, it has to be a utility, it has to be making money for somebody in order for it to, or I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. Why is the arts funding is being cut so much? And it is quite striking what you're saying. Thinking about hospitals and prisons as the only places they can free. I never thought of it like this, and to me, it's like quite brilliant, and also like slightly disturbing, because in times that we live in where nobody has any money, everybody's like tightening their belts all the time. They can't get on property ladder, or they're renting privately, whatever. That is a real thing that people think about, and I mean, I don't know. It's just
okay. So in a way, I think what you're talking about is the austerity agenda, and that. Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought of her thing. Those are really important things to have three, though: health and liberty, or justice. Because the other side.
What about this question of creativity? Is the creative world a space?
Gone to that one. Yeah.
All right, I'll come back to you on that one. But okay, so I mean, what are some of the other people that haven't said that much so far? Eve, Loretta, have you got a view on this? What do you think about some of these questions? About the question of where is this space where we can kind of like explore our mental sphere, where we can actually be at liberty mentally. I'm going to come to Eve.
Oh, hello. So some of the work that I do runs out of the Dragon Cafe in South London. Yeah. And this is awesome.
Yeah, big props to the Dragon Cafe.
Yeah, so this is one of actually the very few spaces, the kind of spaces we're talking about, where you can come as you are, and you can be, and you can have a cuppa, and you can make stuff, you can chat if you want, you can just hang out in a corner on a beanbag if you want, you can do tai chi, you can do crochet, you can do chess, you can do gardening, you can do storytelling. This is such a rare space, and we do need funding for these spaces, but we also need to be able to visualize them. I think there's something about this culture.
Visualizing is what we're trying to do today, and we've got Rick that is attempting to visualize this conversation.
I think it's what I'm interested in. When you mentioned, a few people mentioned the climate of austerity, it's the ways in which austerity has become quite a mindset.
Right.
And it's something that I've certainly internalized for myself, a sense of restrictiveness, of lack, of nothing's ever going to be enough, it's so impossible, there's no money, there's nothing. And it's really, really difficult working in this climate where there is virtually nothing, but it's also the way that can limit creativity, and it can be very difficult to then expand out of it and go, fuck it, let's just visualize something massive and let's just make it happen. Okay. And that's what we're trying to do in our work, is saying, let's just throw out the rule book, let's try and escape this sense that there isn't enough, and just make what we can with what we've got.
I mean, it's certainly something that we're trying to do today, is do some visualization and actually visualize some of these ideas and get them onto, create some images as a way of trying to understand this in a different way. And I think the visualization of this space, in a way, this ideal space that we could have, is really, really important. Saviour?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that you've raised. And we're all at liberty to do creatively in our minds. I mean, she said the Dragon Cafe, really you can do that anywhere. It's just your state of mind. You feel free within that Dragon Cafe space to be like that.
Do you know the Dragon Cafe?
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about the Dragon Cafe?
It's on a Monday below St. What's the church? It's below in the church crypt on a Monday, where people go and spend the day doing creative yoga, tai chi, different things.
What about the rest of the week? Is there anything?
I don't know what they do the rest of the week, but it's just on a Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's a pop-up arts and health space. As you say, it is in the crypt below the church in something, but it's not affiliated with the church in any way. I don't want to stress that. it's an affordable space that the charity Mental Fight Club were able to access.
Yeah.
It was founded by Sarah Wheeler, who's no longer with us, but she was a service user. She was somebody who was inspired by creativity, by the work of William Blake, Ben Okri, and she wanted to make a space that anyone could come, no matter where they were at. If you're in distress, if you're having a really, really hard time, no one's going to be sort of pouncing on you, finding out, what's going on, how are you feeling, what's this, what's that. You can just come and just be among people, chill out for a bit. You're not asked when you sign up, you don't have to state, whether you're under a service, you don't have to declare any diagnoses of any kind. People are treated as people, as human beings. And at the moment it runs once a week on a Monday, and we've recently set up the Dragon Cafe in the city, which runs out of a library in the City of London, which is once a fortnight on a Wednesday, and that's for people who live and work in the City of London. And so there's a lot of emphasis there on stress and pressure and reducing stress and well-being activities, and that's quite a different venue there because you've got quite a quiet space of a library, but there's been really, really cool activities there that just again pop up. So it's making these pop-up spaces, bringing in facilitators, building something together. Really different, really different.
Okay, I'm going to say we've got a few hands raised. I'm going to come to Eva, then I'll come to you, Margaret.
I just wanted to link up some of the themes that I've heard, including this one, which was this idea of, as a society, our agency, the things that we can do as individuals in a greater sort of level, the idea of a psychotic society, the idea of apathy in relation to Julian Assange as well. I mean, I was thinking actually how much some of the great whistleblowing risks and sacrifices that were made from Snowden as well as Assange and various others, the Cambridge Analytica, and how as a society we're largely apathetic even towards the receiving of that. And I just thought there was something there about these kind of themes of society with inbuilt mental health issues as a society that creates a sense of powerlessness, helplessness. And this is one great way that at a certain level you can feel that you're doing something, do something. And I guess my question is, I wanted to just link it together, but what other kind of things we can be doing as a society to combat this?
A less sick society.
Or is it actually really, or going back to this other idea of a sort of mass psychosis almost, that is in Adam Curtis's film, and this idea that actually thinking that I can do something personally, looking at me inwardly, is a way of not looking outwardly as well, and actually maybe all the the more inward-looking strategies for dealing with this crazy society that we live in are actually kind of not allowing us to change that society, but but making us be happy with what we've got because it's our problem, not society. Not more systemic control of us.
Okay, so is our society itself sick, and what can we do to have a more healthy society? I'm going to come to you in a second, Michaela, because Margaret's had her hand up.
I think for me it's something about integrating everything that you said about Dragon's Cafe and how important it is, but also just to say it's a pop-up. It's not like something that exists or is integrated into our lives. So, for instance, I work in the arts. There isn't a great deal of looking after people's minds and if you can't get it.
What do you mean by that?
I think if you're talking about creativity and how that is a form of expression, how mental health, how it's linked to mental health and well-being, I mean, if as society that operates within the system that is, you have to pay. You pay for everything, and funding is important. You have to be productive and all that kind of stuff. If we can't make that being part of how we operate, if the mental health conversation is always going to be a pop-up, just to use that metaphor, because I think what Dragon Cafe is doing is really brilliant. It's about being integrated. And also what Robin said about, at the beginning, something about being collectively more honest. I just wonder what that would look like, whether what is this collective honesty, whether we can
I'm going to come to you in a second, Xavier, because Michaela. And the question really is, what would that more integrated sort of society be, where we're more aware and considerate and honest about our mental worlds? Michaela, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I don't know your name. Eva was saying it's just been really interesting about this kind of looking inward and looking outward. And I think lots of kind of state attempts to kind of integrate creativity into society tend to take the form of kind of almost distraction technique. So there's lots of discussion of kind of like mindfulness or kind of self-expression, once again kind of like focusing on the self, to silo people off into this kind of romantic idea of the artist who's kind of personally responsible for their own woes, who kind of almost self-isolates from society. And I think the best art for me is really about that kind of establishes is relational, that is about kind of establishing commonalities between people by kind of forging different kinds of kind of healthy relationships. So
it's more about the relationship, less about the self, in a sense.
Yeah, but I think lots of things like kind of like art on prescription that kind of says, you know, I'm perhaps a little bit cynical about those kind of operations, because it kind of tends to put the responsibility on the individual to kind of go and join the knitting group or become part of a choir. But actually, health inequalities kind of are structural, aren't they? They're societal.
What do you mean by that, structural health inequalities?
Well, I think this was the recent kind of UN report that's talking about those kind of structural health inequalities, and for certain kind of women in certain parts of the UK at the moment, their life expectancy has decreased in the last 10 years over the period of austerity, and that's a kind of a generic trend, and that's a result of structural health inequalities. It's about access to resources, about kind of pay per capita on kind of health, but also kind of the way people live their lives. And so the problems are structural, they're not individual.
Right. Doesn't that make them quite hard as well then?
Yes.
Quite difficult problems. Yeah. Everyone can come to you in a second, because I've got to say...
I forgot mine.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But poverty, it's not that difficult. Poverty and mental health, there's a relationship.
Yeah.
Solve poverty. We can do this. We can so do this.
Okay, so how can we do it?
By putting adequate funding, by taxing where taxes, by making sure corporations pay their taxes, by ensuring that we have more money in the pot. We know how to spend the money already. I'm sure we could, round the table very quickly. I think we don't know. It's not that we don't know how to do this.
We do know how to do it. We just need the money. So that's what you're saying?
No. It's not that we just need the money. It's just that there's no will to get the money. We know how to get the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people making money make more money out of the situation carrying on. What's it called, the word?
So in a way, economically, it makes sense to keep people...
mental health drugs cost a fortune, pay, the companies earn a fortune. Yeah.
Does it make sense to our economy to keep people inward and thinking about the self rather than this relational world that Michaela's talking about?
I'd like to know what you mean by... kind of relational
me too,
art,
me
because
too.
How would you see that? Yeah.
I suppose, the people speak might be an example of this idea of kind of collaborative art practice, idea of kind of developing discussions amongst people, so people can relate in different ways in public, in quite meaningful ways. But there's kind of, I think, it goes back to a kind of art form that began in the 1960s with Joseph Beuys and social sculpture, and the idea that society's the fabric is the material, not kind of conventional kind of sculpture. It's about kind of self-organizing and being together and dividing, being imaginative in being together in different ways, not dictated by others.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more smaller scale. I suppose a bigger example of the smaller scale is the environment thing they did up in London last year, was it? And that's that kind of small scale, but still quite public. But I mean, like just helping someone in the street, that sort of small scale.
So
and when you get into a state, have a policeman that will calm you down rather than just nick you or something like that. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about with the mental health justice to affect it to that level.
Well, in a way, that's a question of awareness, isn't it, from the police? That how do you intervene?
Well, that's just an example. But more generally, like if you walk past someone, they're in a state, do you carry on walking or do you ask? Like,
I think it's bringing it right down to the actual everyday. How do we relate to other people? I think that's what you're saying, Michaela. How do we actually relate to other people? Do we actually care if we see someone in a state?
This Sunday, I spent half an hour waiting for an ambulance for someone. Just saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. If we could all be like Eva, then maybe the world would be a better place, and we'd have more money as well to spend.
That in.
I just want to put a call out to anyone that's in the room. Come and join in this conversation. This is an open conversation for anyone at all to come and join in. We're kind of talking about this question of like, is our actual society sick? Is that where the mental illness is actually coming from, the very narrow definitions of our society that focuses on the self and not the relationships between other people? That's what we're talking about here.
I quite like what you said about the policeman. If we for a moment imagine the policeman is not there to nick you, I don't know, it was just an example, but we were talking about justice previously and kind of asserting power and order, I suppose. But if the policeman's job was like to soothe you as opposed to, could a policeman be a soothing force? Just kind of like rethinking what policing is, like what function of, those types of.
Yeah, what is the function of the police? Could it be a soothing function?
The function of the police is to police society, isn't it?
Okay.
That's why they're called
Let
the
me
police.
Judy, will you?
No, if people are breaking the law, so how are the laws? What are the laws that?
Okay.
I was going to say it's a bit different, but just the thing about what's social and what's inner. I think it's a bit tricky because I think a lot of people's mental illness maybe comes from their family.
Right.
So you have to kind of work through a lot of stuff to do with your family sometimes before you can actually go out and be functional and change the world, sort of thing. So,
so there's a relationships of the family as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Robin, were you going to say something?
Just something about compassion, actually, which relates to what Xavier was saying about the police. And I think in terms of the policeman can maybe the purpose of what the policeman is actually trying to do is pacify the person rather than I can't remember the term that you used, but
I think you said soothe, didn't you?
Yeah. So, but that also that brings into question the nature of the kind of legal system and how much it is accommodating to mental illness and whether it is or not, and it I think tends not to be. But also there's another important thing is that we're, I think, discussing, which is creativity. And creativity, I think, is...
Can you have creative policing, for example? Is that a possibility?
Creative policing would be having no police.
Would it be self-policing? Okay, interesting, yeah.
Creativity, I think, is to some extent the individual responding into the dysfunction of society, and in order to retain their sanity and be a whole human being, they will have to be creative. Otherwise, you just become dysfunctional and pacified and depressed.
So you're saying creativity is the only really response to
it's a response to the absence of creativity in society and the absence of mental health and adequate functionality in the social dynamic.
Okay, there's a few hands up. I'm going to come to Eve just because she said less than you, Eva, but I'll come to you in a second. And also, there's a couple of people listening from the sofas. If you've got something to shout out or if you've got a view, please do. Even if you don't want to just say it yourself, just say it to somebody else on the table and they can relay it, because I'm sure you're thinking some things over there on both sofas. Eve?
I wanted to add on the subject of policing and the criminal justice system and creativity. So I did a lot of work in prisons and forensic secure units and trained a lot of officers, custodial teams, and actually what I found was there was an enormous desire to work creatively and relationally, working with people to support people in distress.
Right, so people actually, and you're talking about policemen and
prison officers. Prison officers. So people who we
Yeah.
often see through a particular lens. Just lay people. We would think that people might be quite cold, might be quite harsh, might be quite punitive, and actually, when you got an opportunity to have a conversation and break stuff down. And I actually developed a training that was using a subject and a theme to work creatively with a group of officers and prisoners together as equals. This was quite a sort of radical thing to do, to bring people into the same space and go, it doesn't matter which of you are wearing joggers and which of you are wearing, you know, uniforms. Actually, let's have a conversation as people about our lived experience. And in that context, officers shared lived experience of different mental health difficulties, hearing voices, seeing visions. And I was astounded because I thought I was going to go in there and this wasn't going to work at all and it was going to be a terrible disaster and I was just going to
So what you found was a whole group of human beings that were kind of had a lot of commonalities.
That wanted to be human beings and wanted to strip off all of that stuff, all of the narratives and all of the preconceptions and stereotypes and actually get together and go, okay, let's just have a conversation. Let's just talk about what it's like.
Okay, Lucia, I'll come to you in a second, but Eva, you had a point?
I'll try and be quite quick then. It's to do with how we can have a different type of police force, a different type of society that was coming up over here in that discussion. And I thought key to that is a sense of both individual and collective responsibility. So if we want to change society, if we want to stop and do something about people walking past, if we want a different kind of police, then we have a different relationship to the power. I think in the UK, and I think it's not the same in all European countries, but specifically in the UK, we've got a sense of what we can get away with in terms of individuals. You know, when I was living in Berlin, I was quite surprised that people took more collective responsibility for their environment, for things that are happening, for what happenings to people.
So we're more individual
here.
Well,
and in Scandinavian countries, I believe, I don't have direct experience of that. Whereas, so if we're talking about different levels, if we're looking at different things, can go towards fixing this sort of moral crisis that we're in as a society. Maybe it's looking at different structures and roles of responsibility and how I think that kind of on purpose, this sense of, which fits into this theory that we're living in a state of perpetual crisis in order for us to actually devolve our responsibility as individuals because we're so overpowered by it. But that taking control in whichever way of responsibility is key. And so that's my little word to put
thanks
out
for
there.
being brief.
Yeah.
We've got to be more responsible as individuals. Just because Penny's come and sat at the table.
Okay, no, it's fine. I've forgotten what my point was.
Well, we were sort of talking about. Okay. Hopefully it will come back to you on the way back. Penny?
Hello. I was just reminded of, I really like the idea of a police force that's an alternative police force.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of an incident when I used to live in a village where there was a very active community police force.
Yeah.
And I used to drive out a clapped out kind of Morris Minor car. And one day they knocked on my window and I thought, oh God, what have I done? Am I parking in the wrong place? I think. And then he said, are you aware that there's a vintage car rally coming up in a couple of weeks' time? And it'd be really nice if you put your car into it. Right. So it was like he was kind of enforcing a community action, like get involved with your community.
The police could actually be advising us of events coming up.
Well, exactly, and how to get involved and how to connect. And as an art project, I just think it would be a really nice.
Yeah, I mean that could be an interesting, like the sort of like the kind of almost like the sort of art police.
Exactly.
What would that be like? Maybe that could, because we actually are looking to make an art project here. Could it be the art police, and what would the art police look like?
I think the word art would probably be problematic with that.
What's that, Xavier?
It does sound a bit editorial initially, art police, like policing your art rather than encouraging you to do art.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't maybe choose that name, art police.
Well, maybe they need to be rebranded rather than the art police.
No, well, I just think police have a pretty. They do. I'm not a pro-police, but there are some really awful, dangerous people that they have to deal with. So, I mean, you can't just say everyone's all soft and cuddly. I mean, police do have people trying to kill them as well. So I think it's that's the trouble. They're trained in that very defensive sort of thing. So I'm not sure how you're going to get them they have to change. I think that's also the problem with the ignorance of mentally ill people, that they will use tasers or something, which is quite inappropriate, you know. Right. So I think it's probably the training of the police needs to be, so that they know how to adapt their behaviour, you know, according to who it is.
Could you do like an art session with the police, like a week where you get them more creative?
It's a great idea.
I was going to come to you in a second, Saviour.
Could we call them connectors? These people, or something, rather than taking art out of it and think, well, their primary function is about connecting people with each other, and
so almost like a connecting force, like not a police force, but the connection service or something like that. Saviour, what were you going to say?
I don't know. I've moved on from that.
Okay, well, we were kind. Yeah.
No, it's gone.
So what we're talking about is like the creative intervention, the connecting intervention, is a much more positive intervention rather than a sort of a forceful or kind of limiting authority.
I suppose you could have, if a policeman caught you doing a crime, you could say, why don't you go and paint a picture instead?
Okay. Okay. So
instead of nicking this car, why don't you?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I feel there's a little bit of scepticism about whether this art police idea could work. So looks like we've got a new face to the table.
I think it should be the creativity. Maybe we're spoiled as a society, but there's plenty of stuff we can all do creatively without money, without policing. There's plenty of stuff out there we could utilise and have energies for.
So we kind of have the tools.
Plenty of detritus around we could utilise.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a new face to the table. What's your name?
Amit.
Amit? Whoa, that's loud. We've got Loretta, we've got Michaela, we've got Eve, we've got Lucia and Robin and Penny and Judy and Saviour and Margot. But it looks like you're off. Basically, is that better? Because I just want the people on the sofas to be able to hear. Can you hear? Can you hear what I'm saying? Yeah, okay. Okay, so anyway, the question here is that there's a few questions really. That basically what we've been talking about is kind of a new approach to begin with to mental health and justice, and we've been talking about a whole load of different things. Is mental health actually defined by society? Is it society itself that's sick? Are we focusing too much on the individual and not enough on relationships? Where does creativity fit into this? Could we visualise a different space? I'm good, Saviour, let me finish summing up what we've talked about so far. And then we talked about this idea of, could you have a kind of intervening force, like a creative police, an art police? And what would that actually look like? So that's where we are right now. So welcome to Talkaoke. We've got a couple of visualisations so far. This one is an early image of what we're talking about to begin with. I think this was your idea, that is our mind our own prison in a way? Are we incarcerated by our own mind? Is there another one, Rick? Or is it? We'll leave it at the moment if you're in the middle of something there. We'll keep an eye out on these visualisations. So Penny?
Well, I'm just thinking about, it's a bit of a problem for me, creativity being something like separate, because I think creativity is absolutely the core of human existence.
Right.
So the fact that it's a little bit of an add-on, I think just in language, let's bring creativity in, or let's.
So how would you describe it?
For me, it's a bit like breathing.
Yeah.
We don't talk about these things as being separate, but they're human conditions, and creativity is a human condition.
But is our creativity? Are we able to express our creativity in a normal, everyday?
Well, I think that's the issue: is the expression, rather than the word creativity. I think we should probably be focusing on the art of living, or the way we express ourselves, or.
Okay, so I like this idea of creativity and breathing. It's as essential as breathing. We've got another visualization here. Without justice, there can be no peace. That was an early one as well. Another point, Penny.
Sorry. I just worry that the moment we say the word art, that means a whole lot of people might switch off and think, oh, that's what artists do, or I'm not good at that, or and it's kind of missing the point, I think. So art for me is a slightly tricky word.
Yeah, it puts people off, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't necessarily use the word art. Are you off?
Yeah.
So give us a final thought.
Goodbye. Wipe a tear, baby dear, from your eye.
Okay, well, 2 rules of Talkaoke: no fighting, no singing.
Was that singing?
I'm not sure.
That wasn't singing. That was a speech.
I was right. So, in terms of the views that you've heard so far and some of the ideas, has anything struck you as kind of like this is where we should be going?
No.
No.
Eve was very good.
Yeah.
Eve was very good, and I think you need to think about the smaller incidences, and that,
On the small relationships.
Small scale, relationships in the street, people to people, and people. They're looking for a place in the world from something else, but really they've got it in themselves. We're very capable, and we can do a lot of stuff that is interesting, useful, stimulating for ourselves. That I don't know. It doesn't make money basically, which is
what. What do you stand about this question of art? Do you think art puts people off if you talk about it as art?
Well, I recovered from a head injury, and art was my kind of main motivator and tool for, relearning stuff, life skills.
So for you, art is definitely a good thing and an accessible.
And liberating, empowering, gave me a voice, blah blah blah.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you. There's a point from me.
Yeah, you were kind of talking about I don't know if you're talking about the link between kind of mental health and creativity in some way. And I was kind of thinking
that's definitely been a subject.
Yeah. And I don't know. I was kind of thinking about creativity. Creativity is as simple as breathing in a way, and I don't know if you can use that creativity in some way to connect with something or with other people. That is perhaps art in a way. Well, it's not that simple, but if you're kind of if you're unable to connect with others, maybe you're left internally kind of with these things which create some kind of mental health difficulties. I don't know if you can't connect.
So is that connection part of the creativity? Is that expression part of the creativity? And if that's blocked, is that actually a kind of mental health issue?
I think creativity is kind of agency. It gives you something that you want to do, with your time or your. So I think that's where it is a very positive thing. Yeah. It's agency, creativity.
Agency.
It gives you a kind of. I'd love to do that. I want to get involved in that. It just gives you a kind of place to go.
Right. I mean, can you say a bit more about this idea of agency?
Well, rather than kind of ideas sort of swirling around in your head, if you put it into creativity, then it kind of gives you a place to put your ideas.
So an output, a kind of canvas, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's quite a lot going on in my mind at the moment. I wanted to pick up on a few things that people have said so far. Firstly, on the language issue, I can totally connect with this because I'm kind of reticent to say I'm an artist or I do art or sort of art facilitation, because I do find it can feel elitist, and some people can think, well, I'm not that, and how do I even do that? One person came to a really early group that I was running through Recreate Psychiatry, the project I manage at the Dragon Cafe, and we were doing a drawing activity. And the point of this was I wanted to give people a space to visualise what their ideal mental health service would look like, because I was going 2 weeks later to a psychiatric hospital and I wanted to share these images with trainee psychiatrists so I could say, look, these are the kinds of things people would like to see happen in services. But someone came straight into the group, sat down and said, I don't want to make any pretty fucking pictures. And I said, was like, yeah, you know what? This isn't about making pretty pictures. This isn't some superfluous, luxurious activity where we get to sit down, make lovely things, and that's the end of it. And that really stayed with me, the sense that art is not a luxury, creativity is not a luxury, it's absolutely essential to everyone, not just those deemed unwell, vulnerable, all of these words. I think language in mental health is also massively problematic, the way we talk and think about people as if they are the ill ones over there and we are the well ones over here. It's just so problematic.
Separating people, really.
Yeah, so problematic, and relates back to what we were saying about societies that aren't well and aren't okay.
Yeah.
You know, the way we operate isn't okay. But also coming back to the point, your point about, I'm totally losing track now, when you were saying, was it more about sort of community mindedness and
I was talking about, just then I was talking about agency and
Sorry.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to say around agency and action and community action, for me there's a lot of importance around storytelling. So I'm now trying to talk more around telling our stories than making art.
Right.
Because everyone has a story. We're human beings. We're storytelling creatures. Every single one of us has a story to tell.
An earlier question that we were talking about is, who's in control of those stories? I mean, we mentioned Julian Assange. We've sort of moved on to that, but there is this implication that we're not in charge of our own story, and could we be more in charge? Just before I come to you, Lucia, I just want to point out Rick's done another. We don't have to do our own pictures here because we've got Rick to do. This is his visualisation of what the art police might look like. Obviously, that's open to editing or changing. Robin, let me.
I'd just like to say there's no such thing, and there will never be such a thing as art police. Art police is essentially censorship. That's what we already have. We also live in a sort of condition which could be described as surveillance capitalism, and that's where that's a form of art police where people are actually being controlled and social engineered. So
you don't like this art police idea? If there was a force, let's say like a connecting force or like a group of people...
There is a force. It's called humanity and the compassion and creativity of all of us. You don't need to have an institutions to regulate that.
Okay.
It's self-regulating.
All right. Strong words. Julie?
I guess I'm thinking in New York, they used to have the guardians, and they used to go on the subway to protect the public. So, in a way, that could maybe be a sort of... But they were alongside the regular police.
Okay. Art vigilante rather than art police. Artists are kind of vigilante anyway, aren't they? A little.
Yeah, I guess so. They're kind of out the edge, aren't they? At the boundaries. But what I was thinking was what we were talking about just a few minutes ago about the mental health and creativity and art. Isn't another kind of link? It's about processing emotions. So with mental health difficulties, it's somewhere there a difficulty in processing one's feelings, emotions, whereas art, again, it's something about processing what you're feeling inside in some way. So maybe, I'm just thinking of links and the way that the two do bridge.
What about the question that no one's mentioned the word emotion yet? I'm going to come to Penny and then you.
I was just thinking about storytelling and also the problematics of fixing things in words, because I think there was a moment where we were all visualising the art, I won't call them police, angels or whatever, as an idea of a connecting force, a humane force that was quite powerful. It seemed people were smiling, or it was quite an uplifting story as we visualised it and imagined it. The moment we fix it into images like that and words, art police, of course all these other connotations come along about inflicting, restricting, and language is such a problematic thing, isn't it? Because it starts to nail things down for us and kind of spoils the story a little bit.
Rick is on Photoshop and he can change this to something else. And that's in a way why we brought up the image, to have something to work with.
Exactly, yes.
And surely, if you've made that image yourself, that's how he's interpreted.
Yeah, it is how he can reinterpret it.
Yeah. It may be not how you interpret it.
I'm not complaining about
No, but in a way, what we want to see is like your response to that, and what should it actually look like? Because that's how we're developing this in this sense of corrective. What should it actually look like? No policeman's uniform, I'm guessing.
No, my thing is about pinning down stories, and sometimes they work better in the imaginative realm, because we all have our own versions, which we then co-create together, and then the moment it's, do you know what I mean? It's the moment it's fixed down as a version of it, it kind of sometimes can lose the magic of the story.
Okay.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about storytelling as well, because I'm a filmmaker, and I've made films with people with mental health issues in the criminal justice system, and I've found it a very interesting, you say that, effective way for them to kind of visualise their mental health and their criminal activity, actually, and understand it much more. And I think, especially with filmmaking, you say pin it down, but because of the editing process, they can't pin it down for a bit. They have to keep they have to keep going over it. And,
so it's almost like a temporary kind of fixing of it for a moment, and then it goes up.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eve?
Yes, on the subject of language and storytelling, I think a biggie for a lot of the people that I'm working with and on the project I'm doing for mental health and justice is around clinical language and the ways in which people feel contained by certain words and phrasing, and the way once a report is written, many people say it sort of feels like fixed. You can't speak to that. Firstly, it's hard to access, and sometimes you have to pay to even get your notes. A lot of the times you're sort of accessing stuff and it's in this big block and you've got to pour through, and you may not even remember a meeting or what was said back then. So this process of sort of going through a story about you written in the third person that is fixed, that is black and white, that you can't talk to. You can't then phone up that person 5 years ago and say, why did you use that phrase? And the way you phrased that made me feel very dismissed, or made me feel very uncomfortable. And you were talking about schizophrenia, and I was talking about hearing the voice of God. So you can't actually really speak back to a process of storytelling about you unless you can actually sit down with that person in real time and go, what do you mean by this? This makes me feel a certain way. Going back to emotions and distress, it can be very, very difficult for someone who is distressed by stories told about them to do anything about them.
In a way, they're not the co-authors of that story. It's kind of like a story about them told by somebody else.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that absolutely returns to the whole thing of power and agency, because you are completely relinquishing power in that moment and have very little agency when somebody is writing a very detailed label about you, which might stay in your records, or it can determine how you might perceive yourself.
Okay. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. This is Talkaoke. We've come a long way, so I think so. I mean, if it's not, they can sit somewhere else. So, what's your name, first of all?
My name is Nora.
What was it?
Nora.
Laura, we got...
With an N.
Nora, we've got... it's because this mic's not loud enough. That's basically the problem. We've got Loretta, we've got Amit, we've got Margot, we've got Judy, Penny, Robin, Lucia, Eve, and my name's Mikey.
This is more impressive than anything.
It's what I do, you know. And basically, maybe it's just now you're here, we can just go through. Can we just flick through from the beginning to here where we've gone? I mean, this is the sort of what we've just been talking about. Let's maybe start at the beginning and go that way round, just to get a sense of where we are. So we started off with without justice there can be no peace, and exploring the idea of justice, and we talked about different cultures kind of like almost kind of fixing down what is right and what is wrong and what is considered crazy actually and what is considered normal or acceptable. Then we talked about the prison of the mind. Are we actually imprisoning ourselves? And actually there was quite a lot of conversation about are are we too much focusing on the self and not focusing as much on society, and how is society actually sick, and those people that enter the mental health system are actually a symptom of the sickness of society? We talked a lot about relationships as opposed to individuals. Then we talked about how institutions can intervene. We talked to, this is a controversial image, but we talked about the art police. And could you have like a force, not necessarily the police, they could be some kind of humane force that goes around making connections and inspiring creativity and fostering creativity? Could you have some kind of force? It wouldn't necessarily be the police. And what is this about? This art is a bad word because it can be elitist, or, you know, and then we started talking a little bit about the language, how language itself can be a trap and be a very difficult thing because it fixes things down. But at the same time, we need to be able to be these kind of, and this is the last thing we're talking about really, is like, who gets to be the author of the story and who gets to decide how the story gets written down when it comes to things like medical notes, but also the stories of people that are out there, you know, the narratives of like, who are these people, whether they're in the mental health system, the justice system, or just walking down the street. And me,
I'm just thinking about language and like the trap of language and like diagnosis. Like people might be diagnosed with some kind of mental health disorder or something, but then that may only be active in them at certain times. At other times they may not be unwell, but the diagnosis is there the whole time. They're trapped. And also this thing of something happens, there's some kind of incident involving somebody which is put down to mental health. It's written there forever. It's a record forever. Like so, even so these states maybe aren't the same all the time for somebody. They may be at different places at different times, but that kind of diagnosis is a blanket.
Yeah. So
whether they're asleep, awake, here, there, wherever they are, they always have that diagnosis. It's very inflexible.
Okay. So language can be difficult.
I wanted to bring something to the table from Michael over there, because we had a little chat about everything that's happening here, and Michael had made some really good points as well. Yeah. So I just want to kind of relay that a little bit. So one thing that's correct, Michael, correct me if I'm saying something incorrectly, okay? But we were talking about insanity, how insanity can be made fashionable, and how in situations of like revolution, there's like this kind of mass hysteria that sweeps people, and even though there's numbers of people who may be, they could stand up to the 1% of the most wealthy or people with the most compelling agenda, they don't do it. And actually, we were talking about American dream as a way of, people still hoping that they will be the ones who succeed in this world, even though Michael was saying that in societies where the wealth levels are more or less in balance, like Japan or Sweden, people tend to be happier. They seem to have happier, more balanced lives. Yet people go to America to pursue the American dream, and then they ended up, in a bad way. What else did we talk about? We're talking about films, as The Departed and Godfather, how justice system is controlled by one person, and even though it's fiction, I do wonder how many. And we were just wondering how frequent it is that I don't know, maybe criminals or whoever like that controls then the justice system, or influence it in a way. So it is again just
once again, that's a question of power and agency, as Lucia was saying. It's like, who's got the power, and can we readjust this power system? Is it actually possible? Is it something that we can do? Or once again, is that kind of putting the onus on the individual rather than the society? Nora, is any of this making any sense to you? Yes, it is. Okay.
I don't know if I can't really show an image, but that thing about not art, but I saw that. Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was like a ripped out post box thing, and somebody had said not art in there, and I was just like, that's not art, but it is art because he wrote or she wrote or they wrote not art.
That's the kind of, Robin. Hang on, before you go, let me get a final thought from you before you go. You don't have one. Okay.
But it's also like graffiti or antisocial kind of vandalism, and then why is this person creating kind of?
Why is someone?
Is it art? Is it vandalism? Do they have some kind of mental health difficulty
I'm just going to pass this around because this says not art, but in a way, why has someone written that? And would you write it on everything that's not art?
It wasn't an installation. It was just in the wall. It was like an old. It's graffiti. Yeah.
So let me just show you. Yeah. I mean, in a way, it says a little. Penny's not gone, but this kind of also speaks about the difficulty of language and also how you can be more creative with language.
So it is art. It's a statement that's art in a way. It made me think. To me, that's art.
Okay.
Or it could just be mad.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing in some way.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry, I was being.
Creativity or being an artist or whatever. It's funny how you can now. I mean, you probably could have. Well, it's a really old thing, but it's funny how you can be. You can be slightly mad. I'm going to use the inverted commas, and pass it off as being an artist, and that's socially acceptable. Yet, if you're a person,
an example.
Yeah, people who are exceptional visionaries, who are completely unlivable, or they're completely incapable of adapting to the society, but somehow the art gives I'm trying to think of some good examples, but I mean, for instance, Baudelaire, the French poet, or some artists for whom their mental health pushed them to suicide. Severe cases. They become and they become quite romanticized.
I can't remember his name. Beginning with a B. The graffiti. The French.
Basquiat.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all people who've been very successful, and I don't think you have to be very successful. I mean, I think that's the problem with the art thing. They're not all these people who sell their paintings for millions of pounds or whatever. You can be an artist and not actually sell your work.
Are you successful in other ways? Is success all about selling?
Well, I think it's a difficult one because does art have to have an audience that actually appreciates it? But
You say yes.
Well, I'm thinking of Van Gogh, right? I mean, I don't know, other than the kind of myth of him never selling a painting in his life or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He was considered pretty
so his audience
mentally unwell back when he was alive. From what I've seen from stuff on TV or whatever, read about him. Now he's one of the greatest artists that's ever lived. But at the time.
It's kind of like repackaging mental health and making it into something quite desirable, the kind of quality that will get you very popular. It's like you can be difficult in society. You can be experiencing mental health, and sure, that can be damaging to you. But as long as you produce something that kind of puts you on a pedestal, as long as you're this famous artist or whatever, you're really daring. That is the kind of acceptable way in which we can.
If you have some kind of thing that people will accept. Why you're doing that? You're an artist, or you're a visionary, or something. If you don't have a reason, or you have a religion of some kind, maybe perhaps a bit controversial. I don't know if I can say that. But
going to Van Gogh.
But if you don't have that reason, then it's just your mental health.
If everybody knows Van Gogh and his suffering, would he have preferred to live a life where he wasn't a famous artist and suffered less? Or
he wasn't famous, was he? I'm sorry to pick on.
Yeah, but I mean, if you could ask him, okay. You can either, blue pill, red pill. You could either be this famous artist after you're dead.
You can be happy, or you can be tortured and a genius after you're dead.
Where would he go with that?
I mean, he was going to be a genius, did he?
Yeah.
And he obviously had a huge drive to do what he did during his life, whether he had mental illness or not. I don't think anyone was making him paint those pictures, were they? I don't know.
And he was really sad. I mean, he had a really lonely, horrible time in London, for example. And when he was in the asylum, he really struggled to paint. So, he wasn't. He wasn't finding the mental illness really wow, this is great. It was.
It's about society actually, because I agree with you. Maybe when you are the person. in the situation, if you are the painter who then after your death becomes famous or whatever, it's not even so much you, because you've got no control over, you've got drive, you have to paint because you just want to do that. And yes, you're tormented by lots of things. It's the society, how we frame it. And I think, there's, like, for instance, there's like the example of Jimi Hendrix is often brought up as like, oh yeah, he was just so amazing. What a musician, what an extraordinary man. But actually, his mental health drove him to suicide, and that's, there's not enough maybe emphasis on that. It's just like, oh yeah, he was such an artist, but at what cost? And also, does it even matter?
Do you have to be a good artist? And what's good? And so all of those people are kind of myths. They were tortured souls who were brilliant in their sphere. And I think we're talking about something that's just in all of us, aren't they? And we're not all going to be great artists. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so
yeah.
People say that when you're a child, you're an artist, and then you lose it as you get older. Right. It's that sense of play.
So you lose the creativity. Penny, can I just get a final thought from you before you go? I saw you sneaking away there. I failed to get one from Robin, but I always like to get a final thought. It gives a sense of, like, what are you thinking as you go away? Grab the mic.
No, I can't, because I can't use my hand.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, this is a question, but I would like to know why you can't sing as part of
It just degenerates. It's just it wasn't a rule until people started singing. And then,
oh, really?
And then, was that your final thought?
I'm sorry. I'm just recalling what I was just thinking.
Yeah, it is in a way. It is a kind of policing. It is a kind of policing, but then at the same point, it's kind of like a necessary. I mean, there's only 2 rules: no fighting, no singing. That's not. I'm not really. You can do anything else you want to.
So that doesn't sound a very positive last thought, because I feel very positive about the conversation. But it was just a question.
Apart from the no singing, is there anything else you're thinking?
I was thinking that I'd like to go and visit the Dragon Cafe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's all. I've been on the spot. We're just
okay. You're involved in this as well. Okay. In terms of some of the ideas that you've heard so far, is there anything that you think that we could be running with? Because that's what really this event is all about. Is trying to develop some of these ideas. Are there any that you think have got legs?
Well, I really think that this concept of a connecting force, in a positive way. We won't call it police, but I think that could be a very good creative project.
Yeah.
That and I think it could be very visual in the way that they're dressed. I mean, that's one of the things I liked about the visual there was the pink outfit. I think it would have been good to have a picture of a woman, maybe, rather than a man in there, because it would have maybe shifted the way that we perceived the police force.
So this is all really good feedback. We've had mostly male. I mean, we have got a male visualizer back there, just because he's cheaper than our female visualizer. But maybe that's skewing everything towards men. Some really good points. Thank you, Penny, for that final thought. Really good. Where do we want to go with this conversation? Loretta, you've not said much at all. Have you got any comments about what you've heard so far?
Yeah, I've just been listening, and I think it's interesting the link with autism, artists with madness, and how you involve the language with mental health and how that dictates things. So yeah, I've just been thinking about that sort of stuff.